Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to DoctorGeek. Today, we're doing a recap and review of Series 11, Episode 7, Kerblam. We open inside the TARDIS while it's being pursued, but when the Doctor realizes that what's following them is a teleport pulse, she stops taking evasive action and a delivery bot teleports into the TARDIS, holding a package. Calling the robot a Kerblam man, the Doctor joyfully accepts the package and tells her companions that Kerblam is the largest retailer in the galaxy. Inside the package, the Doctor finds a brand new fez, which she obviously loves. But Yaz discovers a plea for help hidden inside the box on the packing slip. And while Ryan thinks it's just a joke, Yaz and Graham think it's worth checking out. So the Doctor sets off for the Kerblam warehouse, located on the moon of Candoka. Once they arrive, the Doctor decides to get inside by posing as new employees. And with the help of the psychic paper and the sonic screwdriver, she is able to convince the head of people, Judy Maddox, that they are here to be trained for their first day. Surrounded by the creepy Kerblam robots, Judy takes them to be scanned for work detail based on their fitness, stamina, dexterity, and mental assessments. And she explains that, per Candokan guidelines, the Kerblam company must employ 10% of their workforce, with robots making up the remaining 90%. After scanning is complete, they all receive ankle loops to monitor their productivity, and they are taken on a tour of the factory, where they finally get a good idea of how difficult it will be to find who needs help among the more than 10,000 workers. Agreeing to meet back up during their break, Graham is assigned maintenance duty, while Yaz is assigned product scanning, and Ryan and the Doctor are given the packing station, where the Doctor thinks that they will have the best chance of finding who sent them the message. As they work, they meet a girl named Kira, who tells them about the people power protests on Candoka that resulted in companies being required to hire humans for at least 10% of jobs at every level. The Doctor asks Kira where the packing slips come from, but she doesn't know, and when the Doctor asks her if she's ever seen anyone that needs help, she can think of no one. Meanwhile, Yaz is getting to know her coworker Dan Cooper, and when she asks him similar questions about people in need of help, he lets her know that the employees are randomly monitored at all times. As the robots creepily watch them, asking them to stop having social conversations multiple times, Dan tells Yaz that he only sees his 6-year-old daughter twice a year when he can afford a shuttle to Candoka, and that he's only working in the warehouse so that she can have a better life. As Yaz receives an order from a distant part of the warehouse, Dan insists that he go and pick it up for her, as he doesn't want her to get lost on her first day, or worse, get fired, as the last person who went to that section never came back. However, as Dan makes his way to the secluded part of the warehouse, he is confronted by a delivery robot, who silently stares at him from the dark. And as he goes to inspect it, the robot grabs him, and Yaz, who has decided to follow Dan, hears him screaming from afar. As Yaz finds Dan's cart, Dan is nowhere to be found, leaving behind only his scanner and a necklace from his daughter. As 2 delivery robots begin to approach her, Yaz realizes that she's in danger, and she makes her escape through the shelves and out of the warehouse. Back in the packing station, the Doctor meets Jarvis Slade, the warehouse executive, and she chastises him for being rude to his workers, specifically Kira. After he leaves, Kira tells the Doctor to be careful around Jarva, as the last person he punished was never seen again, and the Doctor and Ryan learn that many people have recently gone missing around the warehouse. Meanwhile, as Graham listens to a long list of safety warnings at his maintenance job, he meets his coworker Charlie, who begins to explain to him the workings of their job. But soon, the Kerblam system has a technical issue, and they are all forced to take an emergency break, where the TARDIS team is able to meet back up. Comparing their stories, the Doctor decides she needs a plan of the complex, and she tells Graham to do his best to find some, along with the history of the company, knowing that as a maintenance man, he can easily blend into the background and get places the rest of them can't. But before they split up, the group notices Charlie and Kira using their break to awkwardly flirt with each other. After the break, Graham asks Charlie where he can find plans of the complex to help him do his job a little better, and Charlie takes him up to the Kerblam lobby where all of the company's artifacts are kept on display, including the plans as well as the original delivery robots. They find the plans, and Graham takes them with him to look over with the doctor. Meanwhile, the doctor decides that she is going to make a formal complaint, and her, Ryan, and Yaz meet with Judy and Jarva in the head office, telling them that Dan Cooper has gone missing, and that he's likely not the first. The doctor shows Judy and Jarva the message for help that she received, and asking where the slips come from, they tell her that the Kerblam system auto-generates every slip automatically, and that they aren't handled by a real person until packaging, where there would be no time to make such a message. After Judy and Jarva both promise to look into the matter, the doctor and friends leave, but they quickly hide and wait for Jarva to leave his office. Once he's gone, they break back in and go through his files, finding that Jarva has been keeping a list of all the missing Kerblam employees. However, they are soon discovered snooping by Judy, after being betrayed by their ankle loops, and they show her what they've found, learning that the disappearances have been increasing. Suddenly, the system goes into shutdown, draining the power and blacking out all communications, and they are quickly joined by Graham and Charlie, who gives the doctor the complex plans. However, despite the power drain, a delivery robot shows up as well, and it quickly attacks them, specifically Charlie. As the robot tries to strangle Charlie, Judy disarms it by pulling off its head, and Ryan tackles it to the ground, saving Charlie's life. The doctor scans the robot's head, and as the power comes back on, she realizes that for some reason, the system channeled all of its power into this one robot, meaning it's the system itself that is coming after them. Judy swears that she has nothing to do with the disappearances, and she tells the doctor that according to her data, all of the people listed as missing are still active in the system, so she had no way of knowing that they had disappeared. The doctor realizes that if she can get a copy of the original Kerblam code, she can hack in and figure out what's going on, and Graham takes them back to the lobby so they can grab the very first Kerblam delivery robot. Meanwhile, as Kira works, 2 Kerblam robots tell her that she has won the Employee of the Day award, and they tell her to come with them to receive her gift as she is taken away. Judy gets a notification that Kira has gone missing, which greatly upsets Charlie, and since the system had not been notifying Judy of the disappearances before, it seems as though the system is deliberately trying to send them a message. Learning that Kira was last recorded being in dispatch, the lowest level, Ryan, Charlie, and Yaz decide to ride the conveyor belts to get down to the bottom of the complex, and they jump down the package chutes, going on a wild ride through the massive complex. Meanwhile, the doctor powers up the old delivery robot and convinces it to help her, telling it to patch into the Kerblam system and tell her what's wrong with the code. But immediately, after she connects the robot to the system, it begins to violently react, and upon disconnecting, the robot tells the doctor that the Kerblam system itself is calling out for help, telling them to go to dispatch, which is where Ryan, Yaz, and Charlie have just ended up. The doctor realizes that since the robots have a teleportation ability, they don't need to ride the conveyors to reach the lower level, and she uses her sonic to access the nearest robot. However, at that moment, Jarva appears with a gun just as the teleport kicks in, and they all wind up in dispatch together. The doctor uses her Venusian Aikido on Jarva and takes his gun, and she asks him why he's been targeting the workers. But Jarva reveals that he's merely been recording those who go missing, admitting that he's known about the disappearances for a while, and not knowing who he could trust, he kept it from everyone, even Judy, and even resorted to keeping paper files so that the system itself wouldn't know what he was doing. As the doctor realizes that both Jarva and Judy are innocent, Graham comes across a tank filled with the liquid remains of the missing employees. And as the doctor tries to think of a motive for why the robots are killing people, they come across an army of delivery bots, all holding packages and awaiting their destinations. Meanwhile, after reaching the foundation level, Ryan, Yaz, and Charlie start to explore, and they follow Kira's voice to the room where she is being held. However, with no way inside, the group looks through a two-way mirror as Kira receives a package, and upon opening it, she finds only bubble wrap. As Charlie gets more and more anxious, Kira picks up the bubble wrap and pops a bubble. But instantly, she disintegrates, destroyed by an explosion triggered by popping the bubble wrap. As Ryan and Yaz realize that this has been the fate of all the people who went missing, they notice that Charlie seemed to know what was going to happen, and they suspect that he knows something he's not telling them. Back with the delivery bots, the doctor inspects the packages and finds that all of the robots are holding a different item. However, the one thing that they all have in common is the bubble wrap. And using her sonic, she discovers that there are sheets of tiny bombs ready to explode embedded into every bubble. As she wonders why Kerblam would want to target its own customers, Ryan and Yaz arrive with Charlie, and they tell the doctor that Charlie is somehow responsible for Kira's death. But he strongly denies killing Kira, telling them that the system knew how much he cared about her and that it lashed out at Kira to get back at him. As Charlie holds up a controller for the army of delivery men, threatening to deploy the bombs to thousands of unsuspecting customers, he reveals that he has been behind all of the disappearances, since he needed test subjects to determine how effective his bombs would be. Charlie tells them that he is part of the anti-machine resistance, and that this has been his plan ever since he began working at Kerblam, using his knowledge of cybernetics, explosives, and teleportation to kill as many people as possible, to erode people's confidence in automation and bring back jobs for humans. The doctor tries to convince Charlie to stop his plan, telling him that even the system was trying to fight back against him, using his sorrow over the loss of Kira to demonstrate to him the pain that he will be inflicting upon thousands of families. However, her best efforts are not good enough, and Charlie activates the delivery bots and destroys the controller. Yaz uses her cop skills to take down Charlie, and the doctor does her best to fix the controller. But realizing that it's too broken to fix fast enough, she comes up with a better plan. As Charlie manages to escape Yaz's hold, the doctor uses the original delivery bot to patch into the Kerblam systems, and she takes control of all of the Kerblam men. The doctor decides to change the delivery address of every Kerblam man to this hangar, telling all of them to deliver their packages to themselves, and then, upon delivery, she instructs them to pop their bubble wrap. After giving Charlie one more chance to come with them, which he refuses, the doctor teleports everyone else out of the hangar just as the delivery men begin to pop their bubble wrap, and Charlie is destroyed along with the robots in the massive explosion. As the TARDIS team prepares to leave, Judy and Jarvis assure them that things will be better going forward, with all the workers receiving a 2-week paid vacation while the facility is repaired, and they plan to soon move the company to being majority human-run. As they return to the TARDIS, Yaz asks the doctor if they can make a quick stop on Candoka so that she can return Dan's necklace to his daughter, and the doctor gladly accepts. The episode ends as Graham picks up a sheet of bubble wrap before quickly deciding that it may not be the best idea. And now, before my review, here were the best lines from Kerblam.
He's the Kerblam man! It's the what? The Kerblam man!
You're just making sounds now.
What do you think? Still me?
Found on the conveyor faces immediate termination.
It was a pole dancer till his hips gave out.
How would you like a warning for insubordination?
I'd love one. I could add it to my collection.
What you doing? Practicing your lurking?
Just such butterfingers.
I love butter.
Oh, thanks. Laters. Oh, not doing that again. Sticking with bye. Ever hidden in a panelled alcove? No. You haven't lived. Oh, talking of wasps, did I ever tell you about me and Agatha Christie?
I mean, have you smelt her? Strangely enough, I haven't.
I forgot that. That's the problem with conspiracies. There's so much to think about.
We have a 1-hour offer on cushions. Cushions liven up the grimmest workplace, like this one.
Very bad manners to point guns at people. I've never warned to you.
Machines malfunction, that's what they do.
No, mate, that's what you're doing. Seriously malfunctioning.
Hello again. Customers with your current medical symptoms browse blood pressure medication.
If you want it, Kerblam it.
Okay, so the review part of this episode won't be terribly long today because this was actually a very solid episode. Coming from new writer Peter McTeague, Kerblam was a great Doctor Who adventure that never once felt like it was dragging, and it had a really great twist ending that I didn't expect even after watching it a second time. This script, together with another fantastic directing job by Jennifer Perrott, who did the Saranga Conundrum, combined to what is, in my opinion, the best episode of Series 11 so far. So I hope that we see a lot more stories from Peter McTeague in the future. And Jennifer Perrott has already proven herself as the best director of Series 11, with her 2 episodes easily being my favorites. Part of what worked so well with this episode was that it had great villains. And while it did continue the series trend of the villain not being the person that you thought it would be, it managed to make both the real enemy and the fake one extremely compelling. And at the same time, it borrowed a page from Stephen Moffat's playbook of making something mundane seem terrifying. On the one hand, you have the creepy robots that will definitely go down as one of the most memorable parts of Series 11. Right from the moment you see them, you assume that there is something not quite right about these Kerblam men, and their silent stares and lifeless eyes do nothing to dissuade you from that conclusion. In fact, they reminded me a lot of the emoji bots from Series 10's Smile. However, the robots in this episode were far better, and much more menacing than the Smile bots ever were. These robots were especially creepy because they made absolutely no sound when they moved. No mechanical sounds or even footsteps, almost like they were ghosts. So that, plus their empty stare, made them all the more frightening. In general, I'm a big fan of robots being the enemies in Doctor Who, as they have been used time and time again since the very first Doctor, and they can always be a little different in design and temperament while still being robots. So they are a really great enemy to fall back on, especially in a series that has been really lacking in good enemies. However, as we know, the robots are not actually the enemies in this episode, at least not directly. And that twist at the end was really fantastic, as Charlie is one of the last people that you'd expect to be evil in this episode, outside of maybe Kira. So his betrayal at the end really comes as a surprise. And even after watching it a second time, it's a great twist, with only a few moments, like when the robot attacks Charlie, to really let you in on his true motives. What makes Charlie even better as a villain is that you can really sympathize with his motives. Sure, Charlie is a nutjob who wants to kill thousands, but he's driven by a desire to make the world a better place for humans, as he truly believes that he's making the world better by eroding people's faith in automation. And if a few people have to die so that the majority of the planet can live and work happily, he feels like that's a cause worth fighting for. And that makes him all the more compelling and endearing as a villain. It should also be said that Leo Flanagan, who up until now was a fairly unknown actor, did a great job as Charlie, and he really played up that psychotic break at the end brilliantly. So I'm sure we will be seeing a lot more from him as his career is just getting started. Guest stars Callum Dixon and Claudia Jessie as Jarva and Kira were subdued performances, but very well done, with Callum Dixon doing a good job of being the red herring in this episode, making us think that he was evil and up to everything up until the very end, and Claudia Jessie was arguably one of the sweetest people to ever be killed in a Doctor Who episode. Broadchurch alum Julie Hesmondhalgh did very well as Judy Maddox, who from the trailers I assumed would be one of the enemies in this episode, but who turned out to be a very kind and pleasant character, who actually reminded me a lot of Harriet Jones for some reason. I should also point out that another Broadchurch alum, Matthew Gravel, played the voice of the Kerblam men, so there were a few reunions for Jodie and Chris Chibnall this week from their old job. Doctor-wise, I thought this episode was one of the strongest yet for Jodie, who had more than one great speech in this episode. First with Jarva, where she stands up for Kira, and second at the end of the episode, as she tries to convince Charlie not to send the delivery men. I only wish that she had managed to convince him to stop his plan, as her speech was actually pretty powerful, and I really feel like this was her best moment of the series so far. Out of the companions, Graham had the best outing overall, with his scenes with Charlie being some of the funnier parts of the episode, but Yaz and Ryan didn't really do too much to stand out this week. Now, getting to what didn't really work for me, the list is short. First off, I have to say that Ryan as a companion is really the weakest of the bunch in my opinion, and I really feel like the writing for his character changes week to week. His attempts at humor are rarely funny, with him coming across as more awkward than anything, and he had multiple lines this week complaining about being uncoordinated and having what sounds like a mild learning disability, when in the past he's complained about a fear of heights and mild vertigo. So some weeks he says nothing at all about his condition, and other times it seems to be something that's constantly bothering him. So I really wish the writers would decide what they want to do with his character, because up until this point, all he does is fight with Graham occasionally, while at other times acting like they're friends, and talks about his disabilities occasionally, while at other times acting like they don't bother him at all. It's just very inconsistent writing, and quite frankly, it's getting very confusing. As for Yaz, she had a pretty quiet episode this week, but I have to mention that while I was initially really pleased for her when she used her cop skills to take down Charlie at the end of the episode, she immediately loses all of that credit when she lets Charlie get away less than a minute later. But you'd think that a police officer could be able to restrain someone better than that, or at least longer than that. And the fact that it resulted in Charlie killing himself really makes it even worse. I felt like they did a disservice to Yaz's character, making her so incompetent. Speaking of Charlie's suicide, there was really no reason why they couldn't save Charlie at the end of the episode, as no one even tried to go after him, and the doctor could have easily waited to give the order for the robots to pop the bubble wrap. So the doctor's indifference to Charlie killing himself was a little strange to me, as I would have thought that the doctor would want someone so young and misguided to live long enough to better themselves, rather than letting them throw their life away, especially when he was well-intentioned despite his horrible plan. Other than that, this episode worked really well, and it's definitely an episode that I will be watching a lot from this series. Charlie was without a doubt the best villain of Series 11 so far, which isn't really saying much, but combined with the creepy robots and the great set design, this is an episode that won't be forgotten for a while, and it really felt like a proper Doctor Who outing. So, for a fun, robot-filled adventure that introduces an iconic enemy and provides us with a great twist ending, I give Kerblam 8.5 delivery bots out of 10. So, that was my recap and review for Series 11, Episode 6. Don't forget to like and subscribe for new videos every week, and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of the episode was, and leave me some ideas for videos that you'd like to see me make in the future. As always, thank you for being my companions on this journey today. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.